Alrighty, so we are 1 minute over the start time, and so we are going to go ahead and get started. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Anna Yang, and I'll be the moderator for the session titled Human in the Loop: How Much AI Oversight? Before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to begin with a few reminders. We do have a code of conduct, which I'm sure you've probably been hearing from us, that we will all adhere to for this conference. If you have any issues related to conduct, please contact us via email. And don't forget, we do have a Discord as well, so join our conversations there. And all that information I will be sharing in the chat in just a little bit. Um, just another quick reminder, please be sure to keep your microphones muted until the end of the presentation. If you have comments, please feel free to post that in the chat. We will have some time towards the end of the session for a final discussion, and at that time, attendees will be invited to unmute themselves and contribute to the conversation. This session is also being recorded as well, and the recordings will be available after the presentation on the schedule page. You can also enable captions by clicking on the Show Captions button at the bottom of the screen. So, without further ado, let me just let this folk in and then I'll get started. It's my pleasure to introduce Jenny Bodenhamer.
Bodenhamer.
Bodenhamer, thank you. Jenny is a digital services librarian at Oklahoma State University. In this role, she has delved into the world of metadata, integrated library systems, and new technologies. She enjoys constantly learning and providing access to OSU's resources to as many people as possible. Please join me in welcoming Jenny. Okay, take it away.
Thank you. I am grateful to be here today. And I've been really enjoying the Gale conference. And somebody on the first day shared their slides. Actually, it was the copyright session yesterday, I think. So I'm going to share my slides with you today if you would like them. I shared a copy on the Google Drive. My topic today is human in the loop. How much AI oversight? And this is a discussion session, and so we are going to try to spend most of the time discussing. But first, I wanted to give a big thank you. And first, this is my dog Chip. I thought everybody just needed a cute doggy picture. But I wanted to thank the ACRL AI discussion group. They have been an inspiration to me throughout the year about thinking about AI, and in particular in February 2025 we had a breakout session in which we talked about evaluating AIs, and that has really gotten my brain thinking about this. Yes, and I think Ginny was even in my breakout group, and I appreciate that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Here's a brief agenda for today. I kind of want to approach this topic through one of my favorite books right now about AI. It's already a couple years old. You can kind of see it. It's Co-Intelligence by Ethan Mollick. And he talks about the concept of the human in the loop in this book a bit. And I think this is an important way we need to approach evaluating AI. I'm going to talk about a few of the current evaluation tools out there as kind of a jumping off place for our discussion. And then I want to talk about how we need as librarians to determine our goals and standards of performance then when we then apply those evaluation tools. I'll give a brief example about what I'm doing at Oklahoma State University, and then we'll have a discussion. And like I said, the discussion's most of it, and there are 3 scenarios that I would like us to talk over today. So let's go ahead and get started with the concept of human in the loop. Ethan Mollick didn't invent the concept of human in the loop. It's about incorporating human judgment and expertise in the operation of complex systems, or the automated loop. So it was first used by like computer programmers who wanted to create a process that worked on its own, but you don't want it to be a black box. You want to be able to look into it, and you want to be that human who knows how it works and how it's performing. So Ethan Mollick goes on to say, we have some different ways to be involved in this loop. There's 3 ways of interacting with AI on our task. We can say, I'm just going to do it myself. We can say, no, we're not going to use AI. That's an option. But then we could also, I'm going to skip to 3, we could just automate those tasks, like use it like a computer programmer and then never know exactly what's going on and what's coming out. Now, that's a very broad automation. Hopefully, if you're automating it, you still have a human in the loop. But what Ethan Mollick suggests is that we kind of delegate our tasks and we work in tandem with AI. He mentions like a centaur, and that's like a half human and a half horse. So you do some tasks, AI does some tasks, you look at the AI tasks and you incorporate it in your work, and it's more separate. But what he's seeing in this world, and it is kind of the way I've been using generative AI, and I am using AI or generative AI or Gen AI, all to refer to generative AI throughout this talk. Um, but he is suggesting that we work like a cyborg. And it's my joke. As soon as they give us the chip to implant in the back of the head, I'm probably going to use it. My memory has always been bad, and I would love to have access, like Neo, to everything. But I'm getting off topic. But as a cyborg, we can be constantly working with AI. We can ask AI a question, and AI can give their feedback, its feedback, and then I can look at the feedback and I can choose whether that's good feedback or not. And I can even tell the AI if I think that's good feedback or not. I can tell the AI to change and to give me different feedback as well. So it's a constant back and forth, a kind of a seamless integration with the AI. And that's going to come up in one of my examples later. So just kind of a word of warning, it is human nature that once you start using AI, to rely on it too much and to perhaps trust it too much, because maybe you're getting so many good answers, you think it will be good answers all the time. This researcher, Fabrizio Del Acqua, found that people who used worse AI, but then used that and quality checked it in their research, did better in the final product than people who had better AI, who then trusted the AI so much that they did not do as much quality checking. So that's just kind of a word of warning. So what do we do going forward? We have to have this quality checking aspect to make sure we don't get hallucinations, that we don't have errors, and we are getting the answers that we want from generative AI. This is what is great. We are the librarians. We have been doing this for years. Information literacy and quality checking and information checking is what we do. It's already our job, and we already have those evaluation tools to judge information merit. So here are just a few tools that librarians have come up with to evaluate not only AI, but all resources. So the one that's very popular right now is the robot test. And this was more specifically written for electronic resources in AI. And that is all about reliability, objectivity. Is your system biased? Who owns it? What type of AI is it? We have the SIFT method, which is just a little bit older. And I love this one because you can still use it for AI. It's stop, take a look at things, you investigate the source, and you can include all of those things from the robot test in the investigate the source. Who owns it? What type is it? What type of bias does it have? But then you always find the better coverage, the reliable resource, and you trace it back to the original. And that's just something we need to constantly be teaching people who are in a reference conversation or just using AI on a regular time, at any regular time. And then we have the CRAP test, and I see here, it's what I remember from library school. It's what I learned in library school. This was the popular one as well. Currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. They were using this when I was in library school for Wikipedia. And the same things. Wikipedia, we don't always know like who is the authority? How are we checking the accuracy since there is not a publisher or an editor? And so that crap test continues to follow us into 2 decades later. So here's what we often forget is why we were in graduate school. Do you guys remember our evaluation type of textbooks? This is actually the 6th edition of the one I used in graduate school, Berman's Social Research Methods. Here's one that one of my advisors wrote back in 2012, Knowledge into Action. You can't really see that, but it's an excellent book. And I have been trying on my own projects to apply our social science library research skills to that. And I was flipping through this textbook and I totally did not remember how to make a sample. And I found it by going back to the basic blocks of everything. So just you can also have specific evaluation methods to go over AI. One example is like using CATS criteria for evaluating reference sources. Back in 2005, Wallace and Van Fleet did that criteria for evaluating Wikipedia. So you could do that again. You can make a homemade rubric, and I'm about to show you my example. And I made a homemade rubric because I wanted to have a good way of judging how good an abstract was for a thesis. So if we have the evaluation methods, that means we just have to make sure we define what we want and we create the performance goals and criteria that we want AI to meet before we use that information. This is a big point, but shortly said. So here's my project. This is Open Research Oklahoma, the website, and we store electronic theses and dissertations from our institution on there. The software is DSpace. And if you see this picture below, we have a nice record with an abstract, which a user could use and read before they click on a PDF. But mainly only those records after 2005 have those abstracts. A majority of the records before 2005 do not have abstracts. You can see there's a big empty space. So I want abstracts in all these records. It's visually appealing. It allows users to peruse the topic without opening the PDF. The more the metadata there is in a DSpace record, the better it helps the relevancy of the search. And just having the metadata similar between the older records and the newer records is just nice in general. So here's the problems with the project. One of the most time-consuming tasks you can do as a librarian is abstracting resources. And without AI, we don't have the time or the resources to do it. But if we do it with AI, we have to make sure that it reaches a level of quality that we require for these abstracts. And we have to figure out a way to evaluate them and evaluate them fairly quickly. So phase 1, and we did this for about 6 months. I had up to 3 student workers working for me, and we trained on it for about 2 or 3 months before we started the project. But I encourage these students to act like cyborgs. They created the abstracts in conversation with their favorite chatbot and prompting for an academic abstract. However, they were also allowed to make revisions to that abstract and to ask through the prompt the chatbot to fix an abstract or improve it. So they were working more in tandem. And then I created this rubric that I mentioned before, and it's based off of several universities' LibGuides on teaching students how to write their own abstracts for theses and dissertations. And so what I was looking for is I wanted an A-level quality abstract before I posted it on the website. And so I figured that's close to a 4.5. And we kept track of all of this information in a Google form. You can see here just a few of the basic questions that were included in my abstract. Like, did it summarize all of the dissertation? How many words was the abstract? Because we want to keep it to a certain length. Did it have the necessary scholarly tone? And could it be understood by a person without prior knowledge? So phase two, though, I uh, wanted to explore, and I had a computer science graduate student who was going to be willing to work for me for several months as a GA. And what she was able to do is extract the text of 20,000 theses and dissertations that were already digitized. And she wrote a Python program that utilized OpenAI's API, and she created abstracts for all 20,000 of those using a very detailed prompt. And yes, we did test the prompt multiple times. The first time we did find more errors with the prompt. We had to, not with the prompt itself, but the output that we were getting from the prompt. But now she's graduated. I have 20,000 unread, unevaluated abstracts, and we do have some small samples of 25 abstracts, and they passed the earlier rubric. They did very well, but I don't think that is enough for me to say, like, these are good enough for me to post in mass 20,000 abstracts to my website. And I have concern about the older theses and dissertations with outdated ideas and language. How is the AI going to respond and represent those in those abstracts? So I need to look at a lot of these. And I just wanted to mention again, I looked at my textbook from graduate school and I looked at sampling strategies, and to have a 95% complete look using the statistical formulas at the entire body of 20,000, I need at least 377 abstracts that I need to look at. But I can do 377 abstracts. And then if I start to see errors, I know to put the brakes on or go forward. So this is where I am at, and I don't always know if this is enough evaluation quite yet. Oh, I'm already been telling you this slide. So basically, I want to have direct oversight, but I can't touch everything. So we have to spot test. That means using the sampling methods and sampling that we've learned, hopefully in graduate school, and continue that on. And as a wrap up to it, I always want to have user feedback in DSpace as well, so that people can contact us if they do see errors and if they do have problems. So I tried to go over that fairly quickly because I want you guys to have as much time to talk as possible. If Anna would be willing to share the link, it will take you to a Google Doc with these breakout groups. It looks like we have 24 people here today. If we could split into 2 discussion groups, so we have a little bit smaller chance to discuss. I have these 3 scenarios that I would like to talk about. The first one is, how would you evaluate a literature review? My example in this one is a literature review of women in early modern Europe. If you want to try to see how well your chatbot of your choice does, I include an example of the prompt. Then we
Jenny,
have, uh-huh,
I'm so sorry, but we actually had a question
okay,
pop up in the chat, and I wanted to make sure that maybe you got to before we went on to the
okay,
discussion groups.
sure.
Um, yeah, so Carrie actually asked, impressive scale. I'm wondering though, don't these thesis and dissertations already each come with an abstract? Can you compare the generated abstract to those?
Okay, this is one of the, I didn't really have a lot of time to bring up everything I want to do with these dissertations and theses. Basically, yeah, our 2005 mark, almost everything has an abstract. If you go before 2005, and depending how far back you go, there are introductions, but there aren't abstracts. The students were not always required to provide an abstract, especially if you go like 1975 is kind of my date in the middle, and half of them have abstracts. written by the students. And I'm actually wanting to, someday, maybe next Gale, I don't know. I want to combine my my cyborg abstracts, student and AI in tandem working to make a good project, to the ones that the students themselves wrote about their theses and dissertations, to the uh, automated ones, and have, I don't know, 10, 15 people look at them and see if we can tell any difference between the three, or if there's any one in particular that people like the best. Um, but that's a little off topic. But no, it's a very interesting question.
Thank you. So, what I'm going to do now is break us out into two big breakout rooms. And I think, Jenny, you said about 10, probably 10 minutes
Yeah,
uh,
I might
given
go
time.
ahead and let's go ahead and do 15 minutes, and we'll leave 10 minutes for discussion at the end, and that will include our Q&A. But right before we go, I want to go ahead and just briefly go over the scenarios. There will be one about a lit review, and then you'll be asked to ask the questions. What are your goals? How good do you want it to be? How will you evaluate it? And how much does the human need to be involved, and in what ways?
Okay,
And
sounds good.
then scenario two, you'll just do that after the first 5 minutes. Just kind of gauge yourselves. Uh, it's a description for a website. Like if you're having AI write descriptions for a database to put on a website, how are you going to evaluate those? What are your goals? How much does the human need to be involved? And finally, what if your administration wants you to have an AI chatbot on your web page and a vendor is offering that? Once again, what are your performance goals for this product? How will you evaluate, and how does the human need to be involved? Okay, so I'll let Anna split you up now, and I'll try to visit. Oh, Anna, I think we might as well combine the two rooms.
Okay. See if I can combine. I'm going to move everybody into one room. Hello, welcome back, everyone. I mean, everyone
Hello.
was in the room. I guess we could have just had a big discussion group here, so I could
Probably
have heard
so.
hear everything. But
Well, if
oh
it's
well,
okay, Anna, we're going to just do the last question, question number
perfect.
3, to end out our day, because this is one
It's
that I
yeah.
haven't had to face yet, but I think it's coming down the loop. Um, Evaluate your library administration wants you to add a Gen AI chat bot to your library webpage. Will you choose a product? You will choose a product from a library vendor, and that vendor will promise the chatbot only uses the highest quality large language model data, and they will train it specifically on the information from your library, and it will be tailored for your situation. What are you going to do? How are you going to test this and make performance analysis on this? Do you have any ideas? Just kind of like starting out. Oh, Robin, you're muted. So. Oh, Anna, could you unmute us all? Or I guess I can do that.
Yes, I suppose I can do that. Sorry. Okay. Okay, you guys should all have the authority to unmute yourselves.
Uh, I was just gonna say, I think we're kind of facing that situation right now at our library, and I'm incredibly frustrated because getting we have such low traffic at our library. It's a constant struggle to try to get students to use this as a resource. And one of the few things that I think I've had traction with is being able to say, "Hey, use our chat reference. It's a real person, not a chat bot."
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's just, chopping my legs out from under me on like one of the few things that I can pitch that seems to really resonate with students. Basically, yeah, I just don't want to do it.
Yeah,
Other
yeah. I
than,
mean, maybe there could be a choice between a human chat and a robot chat. One of our main humans in the loop in our ticketing answered a phone call of a distressed patron, and he goes, "This is a human. I will take care of you." Natasha, please feel free to unmute.
Hi, yeah. So I work for a large academic library, and the chatbot question is interesting because, like, we have a pretty large website, and there's a lot of resources and things that, like, just not even. I'm talking like the articles and books and things like that. I'm talking like actual like website information that is sometimes hard to navigate through, right? And I could see that being useful, but it often feels like with AI chatbots, like it's like a solution in search of a problem a lot of the time, and I really feel for Robin's like issue where it's like that is often like what like we have told students is like you can talk to a real person, and like and I even feel like I struggle with this like in my personal life where like I use Xfinity for my internet, and like all the time I'm getting pushed, like if I have an issue, like I'm pushed to go to like a robot like chatbot, and it's never like ever able to answer the question the way I need it to answer, like in the way a human can. And I have to spend like 20 minutes trying to get it to like send me to a human person, like
Yeah.
versus like, you know, it could have just sent me to the human person in the first place. And I just feel like with the way these companies keep pushing this stuff on us, like oh, this will improve your productivity and things like that. Well, maybe it can, but like we haven't even really like solved like the issues in the first place with like
yeah.
the hallucinations and things like that. All that to say, sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but like all that to say, I just feel really like skeptical about this being something that like can be useful, like maybe for some very specific use cases, but like just saying, oh, well, we'll just put a chat bot in there and it'll like solve all the problems. Like I just don't see it doing that.
Yeah. My friend Michelle Owens, though, always brings this up. We must use the data to prove our points with administrative people in the room. So how, like, let's say they force on us a chatbot, how would you go about showing error rates, um, would you set up a set of questions like what normal, like, let's come up with some of our ideas, like, and also website UI testing. I see Natasha's raised your hand. Oh, you're clapping. Okay.
I agree with
Uh,
For for me, I
yeah.
would want to like compare the length of time people spend using the chat bot as opposed
Oh,
to the real person. Because
yeah.
our average reference questions in chat reference last around 8 minutes when they're actually getting help. And
Uh-huh.
I think that looking at how many people actually get through and then just shut down after about 30 seconds would be a good clue that people are not happy with it.
Mm, that would be a good indicator.
also it's so hard to get people to like fill out surveys too. So like there has to be a way to like monitor without like forcing them to fill out a survey. Like just it's impossible. It feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I,
think you could I think you could also use some of the like past examples of the sort of things you'd be answering in reference chat,
mhm,
because in order for it to work properly, you would have to train it on data of essentially how do you answer every single question someone will ask you in a reference interview. And the amount of data you would need for that would be astronomical. And a lot of the times you're getting asked the same thing over and over again, but sometimes
mhm.
you're not. So that would take
Yeah.
forever and be incredibly expensive to develop. So that might be a way
Yeah.
to deal with it.
I wonder what the ramifications are of saving those chat discussions, though. Is that something we do?
In terms of even just
Yeah.
asking librarians of, can you think of some unusual chat experiences you've
Yeah,
had?
that's
It
true.
doesn't
You can
necessarily
just
have to
use
be all
your,
of your data, but you can also just be like, who has had some weird things, and then use
yeah,
those as examples of, this is something our staff have encountered in the past, and this is the sort of information that would have to be plugged into a system in order
yeah.
to answer that.
I see Anna is trying to call time on us. I really appreciate you
I
all
do
coming and
apologize.
talking with me. It both makes me feel wiser about my choices I'm making and encourages me to keep it up. And then there's going to be new automated ways of evaluating AI too, and that's my next hurdle. But thank you for coming.
All righty. So I noticed that we went over just a little bit, but I mean, it was really great discussion. And so, yeah, I believe the link to the slides have already been shared. If you need the slides, I can post them one more time on the chat. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions, um, then you might have to email Jenny. But I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the conference.